Well, how you guys doing? I know I haven't posted for a little while. There's been a lot going on, getting school started, VBS and everything, but I have a few minutes, and so I thought I'd start a new, kind of a new idea, a new thread, if you will, and that is a common sense thread. There's an old adage that says that common sense isn't, meaning that sense really isn't common. But I believe that we can get to common sense if we will apply the focus and thought necessary to kind of worm our way through the rhetoric and the sophistry to get to the question which would establish the crux or the pivot of what these issues are balancing on. If we can come to the real question, I think we can come to some common sense, common ground. So I thought, to take on the first one, I do keep it real mellow. So I thought we'd do the common sense on abortion. Obviously, there's a lot of emotion and a lot of passion on both sides of this argument. And so I've thought for a long time, what is the question that ultimately needs to be answered? And I came up with a question. It's about 7 words long. One is the word what, which means it's a question, and the other one's the definite article. So there's really only 5 words to the question. I'll say the question, and then I will kind of talk through why I picked the words that I did. So the question is this: what justifies killing an innocent human child? Now, you might think that that's quite a lopsided question, but let me go through why I picked each word. First of all, justification. What justifies? You see, abortion is a procedure, and that procedure has moral and ethical ramifications. In such a situation, I don't believe that anybody believes that there doesn't need to be a justification. So that's ultimately what we're looking for. What justifies the procedure? So then the next word, what justifies killing? And you might think the word killing is a bit provocative, but I've really thought about it a lot. I could have gone one direction and I could have used a euphemism. I could have said taking or removing, something to that effect, that doesn't really address the fetus at all, taking or removing. I could have gone that way, the euphemistic route. I could have gone the other way, and I could have gone more gratuitous, and we could have said murder, which would imply some form of motive or nefarious reason, or massacre, which would have just dredged up all forms of emotional visual imagery. But I wanted to avoid those two extremes, and so I selected the word killing because I believe that we'd have to make a very easy scientific argument that the fetus is alive before the procedure, but is dead after the procedure, and so we're dealing with killing. So that's why I picked that word. So what justifies killing an innocent? Now, why did I use the word innocent? The reason I use the word innocent is if you've been in these conversations at any point in time, you know that rape and incest always comes up. As it should. I mean, there's an aspect of that, but I think it can cloud the fundamental issue here, because though I have absolutely no sympathy for rape. I believe that rapists should have parts of their anatomy removed slowly with a blunt object. I have no compassion for rapists. I consider it one of the most grievous, heinous abuses of male strength that there could be. But that's a different argument. I think what we have to get in this situation is the fetus guilty of anything? Is the unborn guilty or innocent? So what justifies killing an innocent human? Now you might think, well, human, that goes without saying. However, I think it's imperative that we remember the humanness of the fetus, because throughout the course of all of history, for anyone, a thinking, logical person, to do something that would probably otherwise violate their moral conscience, they have to dehumanize the object of that action. So we've seen that throughout the course of history, dehumanization was necessary for slavery or for genocide or for any number of ills. And so actions that I don't believe that logical, rational, reasonable people would take otherwise might be doable if we forget the humanness of the individual who's affected. So I think, what justifies killing an innocent human child? Now, child, why did I use the word child? I think it brings out 2 points that we must address in the abortion debate. First of all, that the fetus, that the unborn, is genetically unique from both mother and father. So that you can't make the argument that this is like removing a kidney or removing some organ that was a living tissue that becomes dead, but it's actually just a subset of the parent. That would be genetically identical, like me having, my tonsils removed or something. But the fetus is genetically unique from the mother and the father. The second reason I use the word child is because it's in the process of development. From the point of conception forward, from conception until death, we're in the process of a life cycle. And that life cycle is a developmental cycle. That's what child means, is a human in the process of development. I mean, we go from conception to blastula, blastula to embryo, embryo to fetus, fetus to newborn, newborn to toddler, toddler to child, child to preteen, preteen back to toddler, no, to teenager, teenager, young adult, and on all the way up to old fogey and then death. You were conceived, I was conceived, we're in the process of development, and so is the unborn. So that's the question. What justifies killing an innocent human child? Now, if you want to refute any of those words, we just need to make a case for it. If we don't like the word, like what justifies killing, why is another word more applicable or more appropriate than the word killing? I think that would be the argument that needs to be made, and there may be one. Innocent, proof that the fetus is not innocent. Human, proof that the fetus is bovine or canine or something other than human. And child, prove that the fetus is not genetically unique from the parents, or is not in the process of normal development, which, though I didn't really give a word for it, brings up another argument that often comes up in the abortion debate, and that is viability. Viability is a difficult argument. First of all, they said, well, the child is not viable. Well, if the child is not viable, then there's no need for an abortion. Of course the child's viable. It's viable unless you stop the pregnancy. So the word doesn't really apply there. And second, the idea is, well, it's not viable independent of other human intervention of the mother. But that's a slippery slope, because I think we could make the case that there's very few people on the planet who are not in that same situation. I think we could take everybody on the planet, if you stripped them buck naked and dropped them in the middle of a desert or on top of a mountain or in the middle of the ocean or in the jungle or something, that they would not be dead within hours or days. We're a social creature, and we require social intervention. That's in the broadest stroke of that definition, but what about people who require medical intervention, say dialysis or some kind of a mechanical intervention or a chemical intervention, that they need to be upon medication or they won't live? You see, the viability just has so many curves to it. You could even say, for somebody who's healthy, I might be completely dependent upon another individual. Should I be in an accident, or should I be the subject of a crime and I need a police officer, or I need a paramedic, or I need somebody to intervene on my behalf, or I will die. So the viability argument, I believe, is very dangerous, and it doesn't really apply. So that's the question: what justifies killing an innocent human child? Now, just in case you think I've tried to set up some kind of an impossible argument, I believe there is a justification. I'm not going to offer it because it was something that I had to come to conclusion with after a lot of thought and a lot of prayer and a lot of research. And so the purpose of the question is to find a common ground. What justifies killing an innocent human child? I believe there is a justification. Now, if you feel any of the words are wrong in the question, please, help me out. Tell me which word would be more appropriate. Or, and this might be a really interesting thing, am I missing a word? Is there something else that should be introduced into the question that is necessarily to address for the justification? Maybe I left something out. So I'm curious. Hopefully this question, though it might be provocative, and I'll be honest, people on one side are going to go, they're just so pro-life that there's just no possible argument that ever could justify it, and they're just saying, so it's therefore no. Or you might have people on the other side that say, well, we just want absolutely no limitation to it whatsoever. No. Those aren't individuals who are interested in a discussion or resolving an issue. They're just part of a problem. This is really for those who want to come to an answer, I believe. So there it is. Common sense when it comes to abortion. Let's see what kind of hopefully intelligent and rational discussion this might provoke, or at least intelligent and rational thought. So talk to you soon.